Welcome back to Kim Talks Resilience. Now, I'm your host here at Kim Talks, and my name's Kim Hayden, and I'm hoping you're going to bear with me a bit today. I never thought that I would use up all the storage on this Mac Daddy of an editing computer that my son set me up with. Now, folks, I'm 53. Computers, I didn't start actually using a computer until 1999 when all the kids had already gone through university. So I'm sitting here, believe it or not, unable to access my Google Drive. Go figure. So it's going to be one of those days, but we're going to get this resolved today. So you're going to have to work with me. I am working off of memory here. And this is, questionable. 3 kids in, 5 decades. We're all in trouble. So today's guest is Lilian Sue. Now, Lilian Sue is a professional copywriter and PR. She understands the words that will get you seen and recognized as an authority. And I'm all about creating that authority assets, right? I'm not a copywriter. I'm not a PR specialist. I'm the one that hosts the stage. So having somebody like Lilian come in and share her, I believe, decades of experience. I'm going to get more information here. Again, I apologize. My computer just totally crashed. But thank goodness for Restream. We're still going live. We're still here. So I'm going to bring Lilian in studio, and we're going to find out exactly everything she does because her resume did look pretty darn interesting. Hello, Lilian.
Hi, Kim.
Literally, it just this thing comes out, and it's this little square head says, "Uh-oh, you have exceeded your memory." So you know what I'm doing in about 2 hours is I will be downloading everything from my computer and scrubbing it clean. This is what happens, folks, when you edit 75 podcasts into 21 platforms inside of 7 months. So computer doesn't like it. Yeah. So you're in good spirits. Where are you from, Lilian? Tell us, first of all, where are you?
I'm coming to you from just outside Vancouver, BC, so 1 province over from you.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So it's an hour earlier. So we're getting, do you have your coffee, your tea? What are you drinking?
I've got my coffee, still on cold brew because of the awesome weather we're having. So.
Oh, see, we're already headed into fall here. Our trees are almost naked already. So they went gold and then they dropped. But yeah, one good breeze, and I think the rest will be completely emptied. All right, so Lilian, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Yeah, I am the youngest of 2 kids. There's a 13-year age gap between my brother and I. And we are the children of immigrants. So we are both first-generation Chinese-born Canadian. And we were born and raised here in BC. And in my family, there was no benchmark for entrepreneurship at all. My parents were the type who were like, okay, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to stay in it for 20 to 30 years, get a pension, and that's it. I'm good. Financial stability is priority number 1. Just to illustrate that a little bit, this is a family who, when they were first married, bought a house and didn't have a cent to spare for the first few years of their marriage and after my brother was born, because they were sending all their money back home to China to sponsor my grandparents and my uncle here. So if anything had happened at all, they would have been underwater.
Wow.
Now, so growing up with that, we really had it hammered into our heads. And I will tell you this, that whole stereotype of Asian parents wanting you to be a doctor or a lawyer, not a lie. Not a lie.
Kathy Lee, who is the news anchor here in Calgary, she talks about that and how she actually went to medical school out of guilt, although she just wanted to be a journalist. And her mother's like, that's not a real job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it was one of those things where, I'm super grateful for the fact that, like, My dad ended up working at my alma mater. Both my brother and I never had to worry about paying for education and everything else. But it really kind of came down to, for both of us, what is it that I want to do that's going to make me happy and fulfill my life and fulfill my life goals. And I've actually followed in his footsteps a little bit, because he had no choice but to open his own practice as a chiropractor after getting some experience working for other people. He was like, I can't move forward like this. I have to go at it on my own. And for me, at the time, I was a university student, and all of this started 15 years ago when I thought, okay, I want to do my co-op internships. And up here, co-op is paid internships, right?
Yeah.
In order to set me up for after graduation, I'm going to get a job, this, that, and the other. And I said, you know what? No one's going to hire me unless they can see what I do and what I can do. And that was 15 years ago. And that's how I sort of ended up starting my business, primarily because I wanted to get that experience in order to get in house. Well, the in house part of it never really worked out, right? But what I did learn over the course of running my own business is how to stay tenacious, how to stay creative, and in a weird way, which I can come back to this a little bit later, my original goal was actually to become a novelist. This was pre self publishing and everything else. My brother was like, you can't, you're going to be waiting forever to make a living. They're just going to pay you peanuts as royalties. How can you, eat off that? And now I'm coming full circle and actually working on two books, thanks to the people I've been able to meet, work with, build relationships with through my day job of being in marketing, being a publicist, being a PR coach, and really incorporating my love of storytelling into, okay, I love telling stories. I love hearing other people's stories. How can I build a business that's going to help people get their stories out there? So that's really how all of that started.
And with the and as you mentioned, with everything opening up, the ability to self-publish, the ability to go out there. I mean, and the reality is that you don't have to be with a major PR team in order to make waves, because every person in PR has access to Newswire, has access to Presswire, has, it comes down to the words, the copy. Copy is critical. That is critical. No matter if you're creating a sales funnel or a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what most people miss, is the copy. So talk to me about kind of, and it's funny that you have an older brother, so your parents are probably a little bit easier on you, because I have 13 years between my son and my daughter, and
Mm-hmm.
she just moved out, and I'm like, ah, I'm having that empty nester moment. I was like, are you sure you don't want to come home? It'll be okay. My daughter's like, I'm 21, mom, I need to go. So let's go through. I want to tackle copy. What are the top mistakes you see people make when they come to their PR? When they're, because at the end of the day, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to have PR. Period. This is a fact. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. They may not buy the product for longevity because they love the product. They may be inspired by the product, or believe that they need the product because of you. That is, at the end of the day, you have to be the product. You are the brand. If you are an entrepreneur, you are the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I see too many people make this mistake of trying to put up a product name and trying to build a product from ground up. Well, they're not Procter and Gamble. This is the fact. They don't have that money. So the product has to be them first, their story, and then what they're selling. So let's go through what you've seen over your years of, through PR and copywriting. What is the fatal mistakes that you see people make?
Believe it or not, it actually really goes back to mindset. And as a PR coach, I became one because I kept seeing a lot of patterns with the folks that I was talking to, with the people that would come to me and say things like, "Hey, I would love to hire you for a PR campaign, but I can't afford it." So I had a bit of an epiphany moment. I said, there are these wonderful people out there. How can I continue to add value and work with them in order to give them a better education and a better understanding of what all of this is so that they know how to utilize it at the end of the day to achieve their goals? You won't believe how many people, the reason why the copy doesn't work, the reason why their strategy doesn't work is because they're not positioned properly and they don't have the goals that they really want to hit. And one of the major reasons for that is because of their mindset. So many folks come in and they have unrealistic expectations of what PR can do for them. Number one, that's a really big one. Another one is ego. I've had so many folks come to me and go, "Hey, can you get me on Jimmy Fallon? I don't have any PR experience at all. Get me on the Tonight Show." And the way I say to them, I'm like, that's honestly not actually how it works.
Yeah.
What you need to do is go back and as you say, you are front and foremost as your brand, right? Your projects, whatever it is that you're working on is secondary. And you have to be willing to get introspective, dig deep, actually put down on paper, why did I start this? What was my motivation? What inspired me? What am I looking to do with what it is I'm putting out there, whether it's a book, whether it's a service, whether it's a project, a product, whatever it is. Because I always say to clients, as much as you want your project to do the talking for you, right?
Yeah.
People buy into what it is because they resonate with you.
The message. Yep.
They trust you. You're building credibility for
Yep.
yourself, first and foremost, and your products. And I came to that realization too, because I spent a lot of years in PR, believe it or not, focusing on getting the testimonials, focusing on showing the examples of the results I can give to clients, hoping that that was going to drive my business. In my mind, I said, that's going to show people what I can do for them. And that's it. They don't need to know all this other stuff about me. And then I came to the realization, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. If I'm going to be telling people to walk the walk, I have to lead by example and be willing to get out there, be authentic, be vulnerable, and actually talk about what my process is and how I came to it. I cannot be coaching people how to put themselves out there to build that strategy, to brainstorm their goals, and to do the research on how to get in front of the right people if
Yep.
I'm not first willing to do that myself.
Exactly. And babies don't roll over one day and then they're running. It's a crawl, walk, run. And there's a lot of services out there. So I get approached regularly by high-end services that say for $5,000 they can put me in Forbes. Now, a lot of people, I want to make some real clarity here for people. Yes, I understand paid versus earned, but let me tell you, everything is paid. If you don't have your pound of flesh in, your time in, and your investment in, you will never get there, right? And so when people say, "Oh, well, that's paid," the reality is every publication out there right now is struggling to find equilibrium within their financial foundation. So unless you are Oprah Winfrey or Jimmy Fallon, you're going to have some sort of financial skin in the game. And that ensures that you're going to work collaboratively to get that article seen. And this is really critical because as somebody who hosts events, I no longer allow anybody into my events without some sort of skin in the game. It's typically refundable, but I've had too many people show up, think that they're all important because they have 40,000 people on Instagram and they cannot sell a single ticket. They do not get a single ticket through their affiliate, even if I'm going to offer them 50% of every ticket. So the reality is that I think platform providers like magazines and publications and events need to know that if they're going to take a risk on your brand, are you taking a risk on your brand? Are you promoting? So that's my 2 cents on the paid and earned, because and the reason I haven't gone and taken advantage of doing the Forbes and all that is because my brand is not there yet. I have to be seen in all the local publications. That takes work. You build, folks, you build. Don't just put it out there and think all of a sudden because you're in Forbes, everybody's going to buy your product. There has to be more to your brand. So let's talk done with you, done for you, and do it yourself. So it sounds like you're positioning yourself on all three fronts to where people can either take your coaching
Mhm.
and do it themselves. You can do it with them, or you can do it for them. Can you walk me through what that looks like when we're engaging somebody that we hope is going to be the holy grail to making us famous? Come on, you know this, right? Get me on. Can you get me on Jimmy Fallon? I've done TV. I'm joking, folks. I'm joking. Although I wouldn't turn it down. Just saying. I
Yeah.
love Jimmy. Okay, so let's go through this and how people can set themselves up for success. Because mindset and then knowing where they fit. Go.
Absolutely. Yeah. When it comes to coaching, it's really about, are you looking for that educational component plus that personalized support to help you get there, right? I'm not just coaching them, I'm also giving them resources. I'm always open for them to ask me questions and to help really position them the right way. I start them out with resources that are like, this is how you build a media kit. I give them a starter media contact list based on what we've talked about, what their goals are, where their project fits in terms of industry and genre, and who they're trying to get in front of. When it comes to, I also have a course that is kind of structured very similarly, but it's self-paced. So they go through the video slideshows, they download the templates, they have the resources, and they can still book coaching calls with me when they're stuck on a particular chapter and go, hey, I'm really, really underwater on writing my media pitch. Can you look at it, help me edit it, help me revise it, and get it to where it needs to go? With the campaign services, that's really about clients who come to me and go, I don't really have a ton of time, but what I would love to do is work with you and have you do it for me so I can have an idea of how it's done before moving forward and doing it on my own the next time. Because what I've also noticed with I work with a lot of creative entrepreneurs and a lot of women who are creative entrepreneurs. And what I've seen is that a lot of them, even who have worked with previous PR agencies and stuff like that, they come to me and they go, I didn't get the results I wanted
Yeah.
because I was too afraid to speak up and give my input because I believe that this professional knew best. So I was too afraid to give my input. And what ended up happening was they pitched me to all the wrong things. And I did not get in front of the people I wanted to get in front of. And my job is to educate the people who come to me and to give them actionable tips and strategies on how to navigate that world, not just on their own, but to have the confidence to advocate for what they want when they do decide to work with a PR agency or a publicist, they can sit down and go, actually, I would rather focus in this direction versus that direction. I mean, I've worked with clients who have come to me and went, I live in the rural boonies. I can't do a ton of video interviews. Can you not pitch me for those? No problem. For me, working with my clients, whether I am coaching them, whether they're on my course, doing my coaching program, working with me on a campaign, it's always about collaboration. It's always about hearing from their input. It's always about exchanging information and really learning about, okay, where are you at? Where do you want to go? How are we going to get you there? And on top of that, how are you feeling about it? Like a
So
lot of
managing their expectations. So
mhm, mhm.
expectations and then creating a strategy. And those are the two key things. Um, MarTech, the marketing and tech. So this is a new term that we've seen pop up over the last few years. How does technology play into marketing and PR?
Well, it really comes down to because so many things have switched over. As I'm sure you know, I used to be part of broadcast journalism myself before all the major layoffs and all of that stuff started happening about 10 years ago. And I've really seen the shift from it's become so much of a premium to end up in the print newspaper, in a print magazine, even doing TV, because they have such limited resources to accommodate more people and more stories. So what's happening is so many folks are moving into the podcast space, YouTube shows, and a lot of what I'm getting from people is it's I know who to go to if it was just about the local people. But if I'm talking about industry and I'm talking about stuff that's more like genre specific, because I work with a lot of fiction authors, so it might be romance one day, it might be horror one another day, that kind of thing. They're like, there's so many people, there's so many blogs, there's so many podcasts. How do I go about really finding them? And for me, what I do and what I've kind of built my business and even built my relationships on is really spending that time and reaching out and building those relationships with the folks that you talk to on social media on a daily basis. You'd be so surprised to find out who has a podcast that might suit a first timer, somebody who's nervous, somebody who's really green, who wants to kind of get comfortable with doing interviews. You'd be surprised with how many people are willing to collaborate and give out referrals of like, well, hey, I know so and so that has a blog, I know this other person that has a YouTube show, and it's really helped the clients that I work with, and even the people that I talk to who come to me for advice, kind of build their networks in a more organic, kind of grassroots way, um, on their own terms. But they also, on the other side of it, are overwhelmed with the concept of choice, overwhelmed with the really large marketplace. And how do they go about connecting with these people and making sure that they're presenting themselves the right way? And for me, I say to them, it always goes back down to what are your goals? What are your objectives? If you break it down into bite-sized chunks, your objectives for 3 months, 6 months, a year, what do you want to do? How do you want to get there? And more importantly, how are you going to measure it? How are you going to get people excited about it? Get your audience, your customers, your readers, your viewers, whoever, excited about what it is that you're doing. Well, that's the other part of PR that I've unfortunately seen a lot of folks in my line of work neglect. They think once they book their client for an interview, my job is done. Actually, no, it's not. If nobody promotes it, it will be like you never did it
Yes.
at all.
And I will tell you, that is my number one pet peeve. That
Mm-hmm.
is my number one pet peeve. Each guest on my show, I will invest upwards of 5.5 hours and about $150 just in all the AI, the platforms, the tech, everything I do. So that is my investment. That's my skin to the game. I'm not asking for that. I'm looking for great content. I'm looking for you to do your homework, listen to a show, know what you're coming into, and then post show, I know that the asset stack I send is very robust and it has all the links. It's very clear. I even started putting email copy in there. So it's literally copy and paste. But I will tell you, 30% of the people that show up on my show never promote it or share it. 30%. And it drives me crazy because that's money I could have spent on somebody else who really needs the opportunity, who needs those assets. Um, I find that the majority of the agencies I'm dealing with are actually quite good because I have a lot of agencies that will put guests on my show. And so they'll fill out the intake form. You saw the intake form. I'm very specific on the way things go, but I could not generate 80 podcasts on this show alone in 12 months if I wasn't specific. Because like I said, folks, it's, 5 hours a podcast. So when you help people get booked on a podcast, do you give them kind of a guideline as to how to maximize that opportunity?
Yeah, we talk about building that relationship with the person who's interviewing them, making sure that that person has their assets in their media kit, and really kind of going over, okay, I've heard back from them. This is the general topics that they're going to be covering. How do you feel about that? Right? We talk about, do you have any fears around interviews? Are you nervous? Where are your nerves coming from? How can we practice and make it more concrete for you? That's one of the big things as I talk about how to practice and prepare
Yeah.
in regards to making sure that moves smoothly. And then when it goes live, I talk to them a lot about promoting. I said, you have more platforms than you think that you can share this on. Don't neglect your newsletter subscribers. Don't neglect all of your audience members on social media who absorb information a different way. What I see a lot of still is a lot of folks will just post a link and expect people to go there and read the whole thing, listen to the entire episode, or they will piggyback on someone else sharing something. And I say to them, that's not good enough because, on average, particularly on social media, your audience has to see something between 7 to 10 times in order for it to stick with them.
Yeah.
And when you look at it that way, you also have to recognize that audience members will absorb information in different ways. You might have folks that want the audio clips. You might have other folks that will react better if you pull quotes out and put them into images. You might have other folks that will respond better if you have video clips instead, because in addition to hearing from you directly, they're actually seeing how you're reacting to how you're answering the questions and everything. And what this does is gives you yet another avenue for people to get to know you, because
Yeah.
that's all they want, right? So we talk about that a lot. And I said that the challenge here, if you want to truly maximize every opportunity you get, it's about staying consistent in your promotion and in the relationships that you're building with these reporters, with these podcasters, because here's what you want. Every time that you have something new going on, you're launching an event, you have a new project, maybe you're fundraising for something that matters to you, you want to be able to have a good enough relationship with these folks to go to them and go, hey, this is what I'm doing. I would love to invite you, or I would love to come back on and have a chat with you about it. And you can only do that if you are consistently building those positive relationships and engaging with them the right way. Because no podcaster out there does this for people to not promote, right? They want
Yep.
people to listen to their show too. So when you choose to promote, not only are you helping yourself out, you're also helping them out, which increases that credibility, that trust, and that goodwill that you have with them. So for me, I always stress that with my clients, anybody who works with me, I make a point of sharing the opportunities that they get because I want to help them maximize it. So it doesn't make sense to me when someone puts in that effort to go and build those relationships and to have that conversation with somebody to only turn around and not promote it. It doesn't make sense to me.
I agree, and I think I wonder if some of that is like you're saying about the education around why you're doing something. I think a lot of times it's like people don't understand like how to do it, right? How do you go out and promote this? And also, I think that especially when we're dealing with women, there is this lack of confidence, right? Am I boasting if I share this, right? And I think that's a challenge a lot of women face, and that's why we still have less than 5% of JV money went to women entrepreneurs in North America. Um, Less than 5% of traditional startup loans went to women in business, right? We're starting to see some differences. We're starting to see some programs come out. I do expect that number to shift. But even if it doubled or tripled to 30%, we're still behind on that. And at the end of the day, it's got to be that whole kind of project it till your bank account reflects it, right? So really driving it there. And I love how you said consistency and creativity. And then I think the third C on that is collaboration. So consistency, creativity, and being collaborative are the three things that I think make a great podcast guest. How can I creatively use the assets or the experience? How can I hit that 7 to 10 times so that everybody sees, and then, being collaborative with the show host, right? Because it's better to be on one podcast a week that resonates than to try and hit 5 or 6. Because if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one.
Mhm.
So, what's one thing somebody could do today if they have just launched an online course or service and they're wanting to start their kind of PR? Like, what's the one thing they can do today to help themselves to start gaining awareness around what they're doing?
I would say priority number one is to brainstorm your goals. Literally sit down, start writing, and start figuring out of what your benchmarks are that you want to hit over the course of a year, 3 months, 6 months, a year, to really kind of maximize where do I want to go with this. It could be I want to present workshops in conferences. I want to be on panels. It could be I want to be on podcasts to talk about why educating people around this particular topic is important. There's your broad goal. How are you going to get there? What are sort of the bite-sized chunks that you can kind of use to build up to that overarching goal of raising awareness? Because I think the other thing that so many people get caught up in is they think there's only one path to a goal. And I look at it as it's always going to be diversified because there's so many things you can go out there and do. You can write guest posts in different industry blogs to build up thought leadership. You can apply to present at festivals and conferences. You can, collaborate with other businesses on holding a series of events where, you're all presenting yourselves to the public and supporting local causes and everything, fundraising. There's so many different ways in which you can really and truly collaborate with people. You can share your story in so many different ways. And it's basically about how can I tie all of these things together, because in the old days, marketing was very much a silo. You had your marketing, you had your advertising sales, you had your PR. Now, at least for me and the people that work with me, it's a much more collaborative process of how can I leverage, say, my newsletter to provide more exposure for my PR efforts? How can I do that with my blog? How can I do that with the events that I have and kill, let's say, three birds with one stone? I'm launching an event, I'm fundraising for a local cause, I'm getting the media out there to talk about it. How can I, do all of that to help me reach my goals? So, whatever it is that you're doing, before you can't build a strategy without the goals.
Yeah.
It's like driving blind. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you don't know where you're going, there's no point in building a strategy. So you have to sit down and really think about, what do I want to do? And don't go broad, get specific. For my author friends out there, saying, I want to sell more books does nothing. Everybody wants to sell more books. Get specific on where you actually want to go with it and what you want to do. Who do you want to get in front of, and how do you want to do that? That's really the
Yeah.
first step.
Yeah. And I have found that the challenge with a lot of uh, authors, inventors, course creators, we're stuck in our own silo and we believe that others should see the genius within our work, right? And we don't understand. There's a lack of understanding of what different opportunities can provide. So let's go into your story of resilience. Share with me a time of resilience. I mean, just telling your parents you're going to be an entrepreneur must be one, but share with us a time of resilience in your life that without that moment of resiliency, you wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Almost 10 years ago now, this was a year in my business, Kim. Full disclosure, I did not make 1 cent.
Yeah.
Entire calendar year, I did not make anything. On top of that, I'd just gotten engaged. And, so here we are. I'm not making any money in my business. We've just gotten engaged. We're looking at wedding planning. And we, as a couple, and also myself as an entrepreneur, we had some choices to make. Up until that point, I had a lot of people ask me, hey, are you sure you're still in the right line of work? And I had said to them, I said, I love what I do. The challenge is, moving forward, how do I continue doing it and adding value to people and doing it in a way that's not going to burn me out? So we had some choices to make. We made the decision to move, and I decided, I need to do something different with my business. I need to stop telling good people no when they ask me, hey, do you do PR services? And I need to learn from the people in the industry who have been doing this for years upon years how to do it and do it the right way. And that was a choice that I made instead of, because I could have gone the other direction. I could have decided to close up shop and let's find a full-time job, because making money right now is important. We're moving, we're wedding planning, like we need money. But I decided, I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I own every opportunity I have for learning, for growth, for education. And I love the people that I've been able to work with, the people I've been able to help. It's not easy, but I'm at the point where I need to get some outside perspective on what am I doing? What am I doing? How am I going to do it? How am I going to get that education? And I came across it again just a few years ago when I was feeling burnt out. I didn't want to be just a service provider anymore. I wanted to do something different. How can I continue to share the knowledge that I have with people to empower them, to help them gain the confidence instead of doing a lot of headbutting over the unrealistic expectations and having to fight people every step of the way because they don't have that education. That's when I went into, I got a business coach, I got a mindset coach, and I really revolutionized how I do things and how I feel about it on a daily basis when I learned to have confidence in what I was putting out there. And I also learned to let go of that control aspect. I can't tell you how freeing that's been for me on a personal and professional level because now it's, if it resonates with people, awesome. It resonates with the people it needs to resonate with because I'm not trying to reach everybody. That is a fool's errand trying to reach everybody. It's pointless. I'm trying to reach people who are ready to hear it.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, folks, know your niche, know where your audience is. Um, if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. That's my favorite saying. It really is. It really is. What's a book you think every woman entrepreneur should read?
Believe it or not, I actually learned a lot about just mindset and perspective in life by reading Michael J. Fox's second memoir, Always Looking Up: The Adventures of an Incurable Optimist. And this book focuses on his journey with Parkinson's shortly after he made the announcement in 2000 that he was leaving Spin City and retiring from acting, and he was building his Parkinson's Foundation. And this book, while I've been a huge fan of his since childhood as an actor, as I was reading it, it really kind of felt like he was sitting in the room with me and we were just talking about things. But what really stood out to me was just his mindset, that optimism that, we are going to find a cure. We are going to continue pushing through this because there is no alternative. Like, this is a guy you would think, for all intents and purposes, has every right to be angry, has every right to be bitter. And instead, he chooses to focus on what he can control. Even when he has a bad day with his illness, he's looking at it from a standpoint of, it's still a good day because I still woke up today. I still managed to get things done. I'm still able to spend time with my kids. I'm still here. And that to me is the greatest exercise in practicing gratitude. That's something that I try to do on a daily basis and really nurturing abundance in our lives. Because I think so many of us, through no fault of our own, have been conditioned to always want more of things. We can never get enough money. We can never have enough food. We can never have a big enough house. And I think what we don't do is sit down and really kind of appreciate where we're at, what we
Yeah.
do have in life, and looking at, we've been so conditioned to want more, to need more, but at the end of the day, is that actually mentally, emotionally, and spiritually fulfilling to you? Or are you going after that because someone else has told you to? Right? You've been
Yeah.
conditioned to do that. And in reading that book, I mean, I still go back to it. I've probably read it 4 or 5 times by now. over the years. And it is just a fantastic perspective and examination on how you deal with challenges, grief, you know, setbacks, disappointment, and how you still try to find the joy. It's really about embracing joy. And that's something that I try to do on a daily basis is how do I embrace joy? How do I wake up every day and my mantra is if I do one thing a day, it's a win. I don't
Yep.
stress myself out anymore. I don't overschedule my days. I don't chain myself to my computer for, 10, 12 hours a day because I don't need to. Every bit of progress that you make on what it is that you're working on is worth being celebrated. I tell this to
Yep.
people all the time because they don't spend enough time appreciating the journey if all you're doing is trying to race to the destination.
Yeah, it's about the journey, not yeah. I get that, you know. But I mean that again, that's definitely cultural. We North America and globally, like it's all about you know, people you go, what's your goal? To make more money. That's not a goal. Money is not a goal. Money is the byproduct of
Mhm.
having your mission and vision, your message, you know, what are your goals? Who are you serving? That's what you have to do. So share with us where we can find you, Lillian.
People can always find me on Instagram at Lilian Sue Copywriter PR. That's all one word. I'm on Twitter at lsue23, and they can always visit my website in retrospect writingservices.com or send me an email. I'm always around, always willing to answer questions and talk about just everything related to mindset and marketing and PR and just really helping folks push past those limiting beliefs and to get their stories out there because everybody's story deserves to be told, but you
Yep,
have to do it the right way.
I agree. I agree. So take us out. What's a quote that inspires you?
My business and my life is actually built on this proverb. You take a man to fish, he will eat a day for a day. You teach a man how to fish, he will eat for a lifetime. And I really and truly believe that if you have that education, you have that confidence, you have the tools and resources, nobody can ever take that away from you. The key for anybody listening out there is being willing and able to sit down and go, I need help and I want that education. I want that assistance to learn how to be better, do better, and to continue moving forward. Because at the end of the day, you could pay a service provider to do a myriad of different things for you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But how is that going to help you at a time where maybe you can't afford to pay anybody? Maybe you're in another situation where you have to really bootstrap it from the grassroots and everything else. If you don't have that education and you don't have that confidence to navigate that education, where are you going to be? There is
Yeah.
something to be said for having some self reliance and doing things the right way rather than buying into what everyone tells you about what it is that you should be doing.
I agree. I agree. I know far more about like just editing and doing all the work because I felt that and even if you don't do it all the time, it's good to know it because you know what to expect of others. It
Mhm.
creates better relationships with those that you're going to work with. So, you know what? That's our time today. Um, do reach out to Lillian, get some clarification, understand what your brand and your message is. Be creative, be curious. There's so many opportunities in this new age of knowledge that really, the limit is just the limit that you put in place, because every opportunity is there. So this is Kim Talks Resilience, where we talk to amazing women around the world sharing their insight and their inspiration, so you have more opportunities. Can hear the voices that align with where you're going. If you ever feel that your resiliency is lagging, be sure to listen and lean into our resilient community, and you can get your free monthly magazine and all the behind the scenes of any of the events we do at resilientgift.com. Again, go there, grab that, totally free. We will never ask for a renewal fee or any kind of sneaky anything. We don't even ask for a credit card. Just go get your freebies, because you know what? We all need a little more resilience. Okay, until next time, folks, I'm Kim Hayden, and thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Bye for now.